Fantastic. Well, I think you've got a lot of economic development people from all over the region, and whenever you say we're looking to expand, everybody takes out their cards and their BlackBerries. So this is we've got the right crew here. I think we want to really get to what Frank talked about, which is what's really great about doing business here in this industry. And by here, I mean the 4 counties, Central Puget Sound, and what's a challenge. And then we'll get to actually what we as government and business and local stakeholders can do about those challenges. But let's just start maybe 1 or 2 or 3 things from each of you, and we'll start back with Tammy and go the other way. What are some of the good things about doing business here, whether that's workforce or manufacturing or supply chain, whatever else?
We've got a real discriminating clientele.
Right.
We have a high level, I hate to say high, we've talked about the high level of education, but I'd say in seeing all the regions in the country, we've got a very discriminating clientele. If we can make it go here, we can make it go anywhere.
Okay, Tammy?
We like working here because we love this region. We're here because this is where we're from and this is where we want to be. But for benefits in manufacturing, we have great support through all the grocery store change because of all the breweries and the craft beer environment. We have a lot of support through, like Frank's saying again, these more food-centric demographic that we have in this region. We do struggle with being on the KITS app and some of the transportation issues. Freight is definitely an issue because we bring in a lot of our products from outside the region. Workforce is great. We have it's not a very special. It's a lot of production, so we don't need a lot of really specialized people. And because of the coffee industry here in town, there's a lot of people that are familiar with roasting, and so we have a broad workforce to select from there.
Great, thanks.
I think for us, we are really proud to be from Seattle, and we definitely talk quite a bit about that in our marketing and such, because Seattle is it's been very cutting edge, not just in food and beverage, but also technology, and it's just a very well-known city for being very innovative. And when I'm out and about, people are like, yes, of course you're from Seattle, with having an innovative beverage. So, and part of our marketing campaign this year is going to be very much focused on Seattle, on the Seattle neighborhoods in particular. I think that we're very much about local, part of our CSR campaign is supporting local food producers and farmers in Seattle and Portland and now Denver. And we're very much into sort of promoting that concept of local, and particularly here in Seattle with these very strong neighborhoods that we have. That's just one piece of it for us. I think I would agree as well that there's, for us, excellent consumers here and consumers that are willing to go out and try something new. And I think you probably agree with me too, that there's just been this willingness to try something new. And, not many people are that excited to try a lavender soda if you've never had one before. But here in Seattle, it's been no problem. I think second for us is the amount of talent available in Seattle. We went with a design firm that was a brand new design firm that just started, like 6 years ago, and they've now won 13 design awards for our product, and we've been with them since, and we have great, law firms here, PR firms, so I feel like there's a lot of really good support services as well, so it's hard to imagine being somewhere besides Seattle. And I think there's just a lot of camaraderie and support. I mean, a lot of us know each other, and you can work together. You can certainly call and ask a lot of questions. I call them all the time, hey, get me a contact here, or get me a contact there. And I really appreciate that about Seattle. I think it's a great, tight-knit business community. So I can't imagine doing this anywhere else.
Yeah. So I'm from Seattle. I grew up here. I love Seattle. My business partner's from Pittsburgh. So, I mean, if you're weighing a couple places to start a business. But our company, our roots are really, we're very connected to the outdoors. Roots, if you go to our website, the stories there, the genesis of our company, we were climbing Mount Rainier and, came up, really hatched this idea. The genesis of the company was on really that climb. And so, you know, when we are, we try and get out as much as we can. We're doing more to really kind of connect the roots of the company and our love of the outdoors to what we're doing. So Seattle is the best place in the country to do that. I think that, as my colleagues mentioned, there are just so many food companies from Seattle, and great food companies, specialty food companies. It's amazing when you go to some of the trade shows, the fancy food show. I mean, there is just, you know, it's a cabal of Seattle food companies. So it's a natural. I think that there's a real emphasis on premium and natural from the Seattle food companies. And as Sherelle mentioned, yeah, we share a lot of information. One of the great things about the food industry is, you know, our intellectual property is kind of right there on the label of our product. So it's pretty easy to talk about things, and there's a real kind of openness that I think we find and enjoy. In terms of the workforce, I mean, I gotta say it was pretty tough before the recession. It was really hard to get good people. We have struggled, we continue to struggle with getting good people. You know, we've tried a lot of different ways, whether it's working through temp agencies, which is kind of our primary method for finding people. We work with temp agencies, so it's kind of an opportunity to try before you buy. You can work with people and see who works out. But you know, we've struggled with it, frankly, and I don't know. I mean, part of it is what we do is hard. It's factory work, and there's a lot of nuance to what we do, and there is such a focus on quality control, and food safety, and especially as we've grown, that's been challenging, and to get people who can really connect with that, and it's been challenging, especially with our growth. But I will say that in the last 2 years, that's changed. The makeup of our workforce has changed tremendously, and you know, so we'll have to see going forward. But that's probably been our biggest challenge, I'd say, is people on the production floor.
Can I actually add one more thing that's been really crucial for the success of Dry that really came out of Seattle is investors.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good angel community here in Seattle, and Dry has raised a lot of money, more money than most people are supposed to from angels.
Yeah.
Supposed to have moved on to VCs by now, but it's been a very supportive angel community. So I think that's something that can be very attractive to any business coming to Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, I would add to that, some of our angel investors are people from Starbucks, the Oberto family, and I mean, those contacts have been invaluable. You know, the Obertos have, in terms of equipment, people, you know, materials, they've been tremendously helpful to us.
Great, thank you. Jean, you can do both advantages and disadvantages.
I was going to say, going first on introduction was the hardest, going last is the hardest. Because I agree with everything everybody has said, so they've made a lot of the points. But for my business, it's probably just a little bit different in that we're chocolate, and chocolate is extremely sensitive, temperature sensitive, which makes Seattle a great place to be located. However, shipping it is really, really, really expensive. So I've got to always put it in some sort of a refrigerated truck, right? And there's not a lot of refrigerated trucks that are located here, so that's challenging. And also being in the upper left-hand corner of a country when you're national is extremely expensive, especially when you have to go reefer. So I would say that. And then I would actually agree with Josh that I think it's actually quite difficult to find laborers here. So we have, I said 40 people. Of that, about 15 or 20 of them are white collar, easy breezy to find white collar in Seattle. And then the rest of it is actually quite difficult because, you know, although we're air conditioned and clean, it's not a, you know, dirty factory. It's actually quite a nice place to work. You are on your feet all day long. And while the minimum wage is the highest in the state of Washington, they don't want to work for minimum wage anymore, these laborers. And so I find that to be extremely difficult. And we'll actually ramp up to 75 or sometimes even 100 people during peak season, just manual tying these bows, and you know. things in boxes and that kind of thing, and we struggle. I mean, the temp agencies, they come for one day and then they never come the next day. And so really you're dependent upon the immigrants. And the immigrants, you know, they have to be legal. And so that's quite a screening process, and probably our #1 challenge as a manufacturing facility in the state of Washington, or Seattle. But agree with everything else anybody says. And in fact, our first name is Seattle. And if you think about it, there's really not that many regionally branded brands in the United States. You know, even Seattle's Best Coffee was bought by Starbucks, actually came up with the idea of this whole, you know, boutique coffee shop, but Starbucks made it. So we really have, you know, questioned our brand over the years. I'm from Connecticut, so, but I would never move anywhere else either. I love it here. But you know, I'm like, is that the right brand? And so we've done a lot of research on it, and it comes off as either a neutral or a positive to be from Seattle for the very reasons that these people are talking about. We're known for all natural. We're known for premium.
Other challenges that the rest of you want to put out there in terms of making it hard to do business here, hard to be successful?
I'd say, needless to say, the tax climate is one of the worst in the country. And take an example, for many reasons, we need to expand, quite an expansion. I will say, I talked to Lance Randall, Economic Development. I think they're doing a great job. But the cost of doing business, say, where we're at in South Seattle, is greatly reduced to move out of ways. So naturally, you would have to move out, and there aren't economic development programs there. Most business owners aren't looking for something for free. They're just saying, get out of the way, in a sense. Just don't hinder business. And with undue taxes or high tax rates, if a person has to choose where to locate, those are prime considerations. For instance, I went to Las Vegas. I would have never considered this, but I talked to the Economic Development, Nevada State Economic Development, and you can imagine, I mean, most of us hear about the residential problems there. Well, the commercial, it's sad. It's sad that you've got acres, business parks, just deserted, and they're a few years old. And so they're offering tax holidays, first 4 or 5 years. They're offering employees a stipend for training up to $5,000 per employee. Those things really lubricate the wheels when you're making a decision to put millions and millions of dollars into a plant in a new place. And there's an abundance of labor. And I think to our degree, we've got a very, very high degree of white-collar intellectual. It isn't a problem to fill mid-management positions, but the labor is difficult because it's virtually immigrant, and you run into the language skill, and that's the tough part. But there's an abundance in other places. We have more to choose from. So I think.
Great, thanks. Anything else that folks want to toss out there?
You know, Dry got hit with the tax that came out from Olympia, but then it got repealed, so I'm fine now. Thanks for all the
I
voting.
mean, I'd say also that in our business too, one of the benefits is some of the retailers that are based here. So, I mean, if you just look at, you know, our two of our largest customers are Costco and Starbucks. They're right here in town. I think that's a tremendous benefit. And then just kind of regionally, whether, you know, Harry and David, which is in Oregon, there's Amazon is a great customer of ours. Costco. So there's great retailers around here too. So it just certainly makes it easy. They like to do business with local companies.